You don't have the right to tell people that they're not allowed to like your game. Let's get into this. Am I coming in hot? Am I coming in hot? A little too hot? That's all right. I'm gonna point this at myself, okay? I'm gonna talk about my own game. I'm gonna talk about the changes that I made to it to make it into something that I can be proud of, and how the creative process itself actually is going to change what you're making. But I'll back up a step and tell you, I had to respond to this lovely channel, a great YouTuber who was working on a game and said they were going to stop working on it. And it was kind of like, kind of a dagger to my heart, because it looks like a beautiful game and a lovely world. And I hate to see all this work, and I hate to see beautiful worlds that don't get to be played in. And it struck me that you've got 100,000 people watching a video and saying, oh, this looks great, but you're telling them, no, you're not going to get to play the game. There's this disconnect there. There's a disconnect. And what struck me was that, okay, if the game's really not coming together, it can't be fixed. It can't be saved. But there's a point, there's a moment at which you as a designer have to take a step back and say, whoa, wait. What can I do? What can I salvage? And what can I make? Because ultimately, I think that we become our own worst gatekeepers. I'm struck by somebody, love, hate, respect, and despise all at the same time. George Lucas. I got Star Wars stuff all over the place. Here's a guy who made a film, but then he wants to come back later on and change it and edit it and imply in a backhanded way that I was somehow wrong for liking what he made in the first place. I'm sorry. Should I apologize for buying all your Star Wars stuff all the years I've done it? No. Then you ought to make something and then stand behind it and be proud of what you made. You ought to make it and let it stand on its own, because there's that saying, let me see if I get it right, that a video game is never really finished, only abandoned. Right? So we take a look at my game, and I had a completely different vision for Tiny the Last Wayfinder, which you can wishlist on Steam right now, and you can play a demo of it too. You can check it out and see how it's going. And I had a different vision for it, where it was going to be a lot more level-based, and I wound up having to kill the features that I loved. I let it evolve, and I let it grow, and I absolutely got brutal. Oh, it hurt sometimes to do it. The game was going to have you at a central hollow log of a home base in a village, and then you would go by glider and glide around the overworld, the terrain, and try to get a little further out. You'd drop into a rough area, and it would open up a level. And you'd be in an isolated level, solve some puzzle inside of that level, and then go on, because you could light a signal fire when you solved it, which would give you an updraft and let you explore further. You would get a little sword, you'd get a button shield, you explore caves, you get glowing mushrooms, you get lots of tools, you'd fight spiders. It's a good game, and it's not the game I made. It's not the game I made at all. Because once I got into actually getting in there and making it, the theory and the concept kind of went out the window. And I had an option to say, okay, I'm in charge here. Am I going to push this game to make it what my vision is, or am I going to be responsive and flow with it and respond to what I'm experiencing in the moment and liking? There is a really strong argument to be made to sticking to your guns and taking control and molding something. In my case, I decided to explore and flow with it a little bit more. And I realized that I didn't really need to do levels, because the systems that I was putting into place were lightweight enough that I could actually run all of the zones, all of the levels, all at once, which all connected together become what? Open world. That's what it becomes. It becomes an open world kind of a play space, because it all flows into one another. I'm like, well, that changes the way that the game is played. And the combat, I think, went away because it was so pretty. It was so nice. I couldn't bear the idea of adding darkness and fear into it. It was so nice. I was having a fun time in my beautiful, playful world, and I just wanted to be there. I just wanted to run around and play in it myself. And I realized that if I'm enjoying this, then so will other people. I don't have to add more to it. I don't have to add more features to it. In fact, there comes a point when you have to start cutting features. And a lot of the entire concept went away, and I got away from puzzling and solving areas because I don't want to make puzzles and environmental things. I want to explore. And the more that I explored and the more that I interacted with this world, the more that I realized that it really wanted to be about restoration. It really wanted to be about harmony. It wanted to be about embracing the beauty of the place. And so to me, as I explored that, I realized that fear and darkness and fighting and combat and defeating things was not in keeping with the overall concept of the game. And I wound up having to destroy a bunch of stuff that I really wanted to add to it. I thought that having a button shield would be fantastic. But the more I messed with the game, the more that I had to make the choice of not putting anything from the human world into this tiny world, that I would let it stand on its own tiny little feet, that it would be the natural world from a 2-inch tall perspective. That's what it wants to be. And I wanted to get the game to explore further and further and deeper and further away from home. But the more I did that, the more I realized that that missing and longing for home was almost kind of a negative thing. And that being able to cycle back to home became a grounding principle that I really appreciated and I really liked. And so I let the game evolve in that direction. And then I realized that some of the mechanics that I had were things that were just overlapping and competing with each other, and I had to cut them. And boy, that was a tough one, especially when I said I'm not going to have a glider, because that was something that I kept as a bit of a secret and kept it really close to the vest over here, and said, I want to surprise and delight and have a glider section. And I realized that the entire mechanics of building it would add months to the development cycle, and I was stressing out about it. And that I realized that mechanically getting any traversal mechanics immediately followed by a glider, well, the glider trumps all of the other ones. Why do you climb when you can fly? Okay, so then you have to backtrack and make reasons not to. Anyway, it complicates the entire game, and so I had to cut it. So yeah, I had to kill a bunch of stuff that I thought was critical to it in order to make the game better. And it limited the scope. But now what I've got, instead of a pie in the sky, anything is possible, blue sky game that's in my head, I've got a real game that is almost finished. And what I'm faced with is the terrible specter of taking a step back and looking at it and saying, this is not the game that I envisioned, but it is the game that I made. I did it intentionally. I did it on purpose. I did the best job that I could. It is not as perfect as I wish it could be, but I am pleased with it all the same. And I'm not saying this to try to say, oh, my game's not as good as it could be. I'm saying this is as good as I can possibly do right now, and it is my job to be pleased with it. It is my job to finish it. It is my job to let you be the judge at the end of the day. And it would be really easy for me to say at the end of a dev cycle that's been taking me about a year to say, well, I've gotten better. And I need to start over again. Oh, I just stepped on somebody's toes, didn't I? Oh, I got up in your face, didn't I? I know I did. Oh, my friends. That one is subversive, and that one is evil. That one will stop you from ever finishing anything. Because as long as you have the opportunity to do better, you can never be judged by what you actually completed. And that's where we really get to at the end of the day. We don't want to let ourselves be judged for not doing the perfect vision in our mind. But the only perfect game that's ever going to exist is the one that you don't make. You do not have the ability to make a perfect game. I think it is so empowering and so important that you square with that you look that in the eye and accept it, and to realize that you cannot make a quote-unquote perfect game. All you can do is put the best effort forward and let people enjoy it. There comes a point when you are just stopping the audience from enjoying what you made. And I had to write myself a note, and it says, this game is adorable. This game is adorable. That's my note. I was saying to myself that it was so important to just let people enjoy it and run around. And if all they did was run around and enjoy this beautiful world, then that should be enough. Fortunately, I added a lot more, and there's things to do, and there's a story, and there's characters, and all these things that are lovely, and they make a full game experience. But I have got to take my hands off the wheel at a point and say, I've done everything I can, and I'm going to let you enjoy what I made. Even if it meant changing vision, even if it meant cutting big features, even if it meant letting the game evolve and grow and to turn into something that I hadn't really planned out on paper. The game that is finished is always going to be better than the game you never made. So, my advice to you as a game dev is to not prevent your audience from getting to enjoy the thing you made just because you think you can do it better next time. We have to move on and keep going to the next project. And we can't let that search for perfection that is so unobtainable become an impediment to completing what is in front of us right now. So I hope if you're working on a project that you will get out of your own way, that you'll be willing to cut features if you need to, that you'll take a step back and look at what does this game really want to be? What am I able to create? And instead of always chasing a project that will never end, to put an actual timeline on it and say, no, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to publish it. I'm going to be proud of it. And then I'm going to move on to another project. That's my goal. That's the way I'm going to operate. I hope that you will appreciate that. Please subscribe to the channel if you didn't already. And as always, I hope that you will be awesome today.